When I first recorded today's critical thought, Highguard was kind of out, but on the bubble of kind of bursting. And as I'm recording this new intro, the game is officially declared end of service for the middle of March. But the lessons for today's critical thought still remain, as we're going to be discussing what goes into making a successful online multiplayer game today, and why so many developers are missing the point, mark, reticle, loot, whatever, when it comes to making it work. As we said before, live service multiplayer shooters, however you want to describe them, are some of the biggest risk-reward examples that the industry has. When they succeed, they can lead to a game and a studio getting massive amounts of popularity, recognition, and clout. You look at mega successes like Team Fortress, Dead by Daylight, Marvel Rivals, Fortnite, PUBG at its peak, even Overwatch when it was at its most popular. These games go on to become a brand unto themselves. This leads, of course, to being able to license these characters, get collabs, earn lots and lots of money. And a lot of this, again, is built off of the backbone of the whole mobile live service market. People still chasing the money of games like Clash of Clans, or even some of the older examples like World of Tanks. And every few years, someone will try and roll the dice yet again. We saw this with the multitude of Battle Royale games following Fortnite's explosion of popularity. We've seen this, of course, with hero shooters, looter shooters, anything that involves, again, trying to build a massive game and massive IP. And Highguard was no exception to this. But looking at kind of the marketing and the details surrounding the game, it's very easy to notice some of the major telltale signs that there is a problem. And it's very important for you, if you're working on either a small, medium, or large-scale multiplayer game, to be aware of this. The first point, and this is something that I try to hammer home to developers every time I get a chance. When you are marketing a multiplayer game, a community-based game, again, whether we're talking about matches as small as 1v1, 10v10, 500 versus 500, however you want to say it, you need to be marketing months and even sometimes a year or so in advance, depending upon the scale of this game. I did consulting, I've said this before, for a smaller multiplayer game that we played, Charge. And one of the things I kept telling people, and we brought this up during our final conversation, is that marketing for a multiplayer game needs to happen as early into the game's development as possible. When you have something concrete that you can show to people, beyond just, again, concept art or just programmer assets, you need to start putting that out there. Especially, again, if you are requiring people to be playing this game. The absolute worst thing that you can do for any game, let alone multiplayer-based one, is wait until the day of, the week of, the month of release before you actually start marketing it. For every publisher and PR person, they just got a horrible pain in their chests as I said those words. When you're trying to build a multiplayer community, you need to give this game air to breathe. There has to be enough time for people to find out about it, try it, mention it to their friends, and hopefully consider wanting to support this game. Because if they don't, who's going to play your game? That's not a hypothetical question. If nobody is there on day one to play your multiplayer only title, who's going to be able to play that game? Because even if you do get those day one bumps, that people are going to check it out. They start the game, they go to search for our lobby, and there's no one. How do you bounce back from that? And it's why we've spoken so much about the downward spiral when it comes to multiplayer games. When they do well, they do amazingly well. When they don't, it just becomes this endless spiral that people try the game, they can't get a match, they stop playing, someone else tries a game, they can't find a match, and suddenly you are going from tens of thousands of people playing to hundreds, to dozens, and sometimes we've seen into the single digits of people trying to play your game. And while you may have had some, again, safety cushion about 10-15 years ago before you could actually refund games, today, if someone just spends $69.99 on that brand new title, they load it up and it says match queues 40 minutes an hour, they're refunding that, and they are never going to come back. With Highguard, in terms of the actual kind of window of announcement to release, it was about a month. They got the, big name announcement at the Game Awards in December, and then the game was officially launched at the end of January. So we could say maybe about month and a half of being in the public eye. That is way too damn short for any kind of multiplayer title. What they should have done is really announce this game, or at least start talking about this game maybe 3 to 4 months before. Start putting out videos, start mentioning this title, and then have the super big exclusive Game Awards reveal. And of course, letting people know, hey, you like what you see, here we go, we're going to have a playtest, we're going to have something. But to go from unknown to having a release in about a month after, and again, for a game that's requiring people to play, that's requiring you to actually start playtesting when we start having lots of people playing at one time, that is too short. Now, the other point, and this one that a lot of people have been bringing up who have been playing these games, who have been doing trailers and all that, is that the game looks very generic in terms of the character designs, in terms of what you're doing in it. There's nothing here, at least from kind of like the new person's perspective, that's making them go, wow, I haven't seen anything quite like this. And in a lot of the marketing that the game was discussed is that this was made by former people who did stuff like Apex Legends, who worked on titles like that. And it's time for the other, very big, painful truth. When you go from a major studio to indie development, or a brand new company or a smaller studio, the consumer does not care that you worked on Game X, especially if Game X is still popular. As another point that we have said a lot, if you are trying to make your version of Fortnite, Battlefield, Apex, Dead by Daylight, Overwatch, Team Fortress, pick any one or many more of these games, and they are still actively being played, why should they give your game the time of day? And again, this is not a hypothetical question. This is a standard question when it comes to building a game. If you are trying to enter a market that is incredibly saturated either by lots and lots of games, or by 1 or 2 games completely dominating the space, your game has to do something special. It has to do something interesting that you can tie the entire experience around. Watching a bunch of characters run around, sliding and shooting is not that. And as a very important point, the store page, of course, is mentioned you can choose playing as different wardens. You can have these different characters. There is nothing on this page on Steam that's actually showing these characters off. What do they do special? What makes them interesting? What, again, is going to tie people to this title? And then if we kind of, as a juxtaposition, go to something like Apex Legends, in the trailer that they show off, you can see characters doing different things. But the king, when it comes to, again, selling the characters as part of the experience, once again goes to Team Fortress. As we've said, the meet-the-team videos is perhaps one of the most brilliant forms of marketing a game and a studio has ever done to get people interested in it. And it's something that, again, a lot of studios have chased for years. And I don't think no one has actually managed to get anywhere close to the success that Valve has had. And again, it is about selling people on something different. That your game is going to be different from all these other titles. Just having a shinier coat of paint is not enough anymore. Now, there is the other side of this, because just as a lot of developers who get into like the multiplayer side coming from AA or AAA and they try to recapture that experience and fail, I've also seen things from the opposite end of the spectrum. This is when we see from an independent developer, a new team, and they try to completely reinvent the wheel. Let's make a 7 versus 15 asymmetrical spaceship shooter automation game. And over the last about now 16 years, there have been a lot of developers who have tried to do something very differently. In some cases, they can work out really well, like Lethal Company, Phasmophobia, which I keep butchering that name, of course something like Among Us, and so on and so on. And then that once again leads to that chase of people either trying to directly copy those games, or just, again, try to re-break that wheel, and hoping that originality is enough to get people to play their game. Once again, the very painful truth is that originality is not enough. You cannot just sell your game on being completely different from everyone else if it's unfun to play, broken, doesn't work, etc., etc. And I have had my fair share of people sending me Unreal Engine, very unoptimized multiplayer shooters where the second I try and play them, my tower just sounds like a Harrier jet next to me. Just selling originality is not enough. And as we said in the first part, there has to be a lot of work done to get people interested in your shooter. Once you have, again, just that base concept completely finalized, you're off of, programmer or temp assets, you have something playable and showable, you need to start putting out marketing for that game. Especially if you're doing something completely different from anyone else. Because as we all know, you can show footage of a first-person shooter, and to the unobservant, it can just look like the same exact game if you're just walking around, shooting an assault rifle, or a laser, or a shotgun. If your game is doing something far different from Boomer Shooter A, or again, Team-Based Shooter 755 at this point, that needs to be a part of your marketing. Whether you are blasting about on social media, sending it to streamers, YouTubers, game journalists, whatever. Because again, you cannot wait until the day of to get people excited about your game. And if your game is doing something different, people don't want to be confused about that. Another point that I brought up when we were doing a lot of the playtesting, and this is something that even the other people were mentioning, is how important it is to get someone to understand what the hell are they doing in this game? Now, that doesn't mean you need a hour-long, fully narrated and guided tutorial, but there still needs to be some element of onboarding. And if you don't have that, it's going to be very painful for you. And part of that onboarding is going to be your marketing. Showing someone, how do you play a game? What makes it exciting? What makes it different? If you cannot convey that in your kind of main official trailer, then you need to have a gameplay trailer. If you again have different specialized characters and have those like hero spotlights. Again, anything and everything that makes your game stand out from everyone else is a potential marketing opportunity. And you never know what is going to really capture the people's imagination. Maybe they like that really cool, strange weapon that you show in a trailer. Maybe that unusually, like, 5-eyed ogre who likes to use hammers and nunchucks could be the standout star of your hero spotlights. But you need to get people talking about your game. You need to get them interested in it. And to bring this back to, again, a lot of the live service games, it's why the characters, the environment, and the story become a major part of selling this experience. Yes, you've played your umpteenth gacha game, your 8,000th gacha roll of trying to get that amazing character. But if that character is part of an amazing story, or is going to become a fan favorite, people are going to spend on it. Believe you me, when we look at like limited banners for popular games, when they introduce that fan favorite story character who's now officially playable for the first time, a lot of wallets are getting opened for it. To wrap things up and bring it back to Highguard, multiplayer in of itself is no longer the only selling point for a game. People have lots of multiplayer. There's lots and lots of ways to play a game daily, weekly, with friends, with randoms, and so on. And you need to do your part to get people interested in it. It is no longer just saying, hey, we're 5 people who worked on Apex, or Battlefield, or again, pick any other shooter, and now we're doing the same exact thing, but maybe it's with a different coat of paint. Or instead of having 3 male, 2 female characters, it's 3 female and 2 male characters. Maybe one's an orc, maybe one's a robot, who knows? And that was just me just throwing something random out. I just described your multiplayer shooter to a T, I apologize. There has to be more that goes into the marketing of your game. If you're selling a game on unique characters, then those unique characters have to be a part of every single thing you talk about. If your game is focusing on never before seen gameplay, which is nice for me to say very fast, that needs to be a part of your marketing. If you're doing all the above, then you should be putting out trailer after trailer, character spotlight after character spotlight, and you have to be doing this early. One of the, I think, the easiest traps that a lot of these developers are falling into is trying to hype their game up like a super big reveal of a blockbuster. We're not going to tell you anything about it until the week of launch. No, don't do that. Again, 3 to 6 months minimum. Write that down on a board. Put that in front of you. Get a tattoo of it. It doesn't matter. That is the bare minimum time when it comes to marketing a multiplayer game. It's also around the same time for a single player. But again, multiplayer games are very high risk, high reward. And if you're trying to bank your entire studio's reputation on a multiplayer game that you have never shown anyone, you've not done any marketing of, and it's coming out tomorrow, well, I guess all I can say is good luck. So the final question for you is, can you think of multiplayer games that did everything right? They may not have the numbers of Overwatch, World of Tanks, and so on, but they're still doing things correctly enough to keep going. And we haven't even talked about support of a live service game. That is its own Pandora's box of horrors. But then we'll be here for another 30 to 40 minutes. So with that, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy all your looter shooters, hero shooters, PvP, Royale, Space Sim, capture the flags. And we'll be back with another video real soon. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.